Bob, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you.
I know you're big on the COVID salute.
Yeah.
You brought that into the office one day. You said, hey, I'm just going to hit you with the COVID salute. I really like that.
Yeah, I do that with the customers as well.
I love it. Just a pause and, hey, quick salute.
Yeah,
Good move.
It's very awkward when you're in a service business where it's natural just to extend your hand.
Yes.
So you almost have to have your hands in your pockets.
Yep.
And then do the salute.
Yes. I
But
loved
yeah.
it. I thought that was brilliant. I was like, look, the elbow bump is weird, all this other stuff, the knuckle, it's like
Yeah.
the salute is like, okay,
Absolutely.
I like it. Good move. So thanks for joining me on the show today. So
Yep.
what I wanted to do is just kind of dive into you, Bob Wells, Trend Realty. You've been here now not quite a year, correct?
Yeah, it'll be October.
Okay, so coming up on a year, you've got a handful of deals done, a handful of deals in the hopper. You really kind of caught your legs here. I want to first touch on your background, what you did previous to real estate, and tell me a little bit about your career path that got you here.
Well, the last almost 20 years I spent in the automotive services industry. The best way of boiling it down without taking the entire 15, 20 minutes is my company did the things that the big automakers didn't want to do.
Sure.
Whether it's janitorial, maintenance, vehicle logistics. I had multiple sites. I was a regional operations guy. A lot of travel, a lot of long hours, a lot of soul-sucking work. And I moved to Florida going on 3 years ago.
Okay.
Primarily because my girlfriend, her daughter bought a house. And when she did, she looked at me and said, we're buying a house.
Nice.
So, I was able to fly versus drive, because I used to drive when I was up in Ohio. And
And you were all over the Midwest.
all over, yeah.
All over.
And there's times I go overseas, too, for, conferences or meetings as well. And that sounds glamorous, but it's not. I mean,
I travel a little. I know.
yeah,
I agree.
So, but yeah, when you have to fly up to Detroit in February when it's absolutely gorgeous in Florida,
yes.
so I saved up some income,
Yep.
took the plunge, and I always was interested in doing real estate, but I needed a push,
Yes.
and I finally got that push, and I never looked back. So
I find the people that are most successful, especially new licensees, because I'm really attracted to new licensees. The guys who are running around town who've been doing this for 20 years, they have what I would call like bad habits, or like maybe they do kind of things that I think are in a gray area ethically. I just stay away from those guys, those people. I like the people that I can kind of not train, but like work into like, this is how we do it. This is why we do it. You took to like that to like a fish to water. But also what really attracted me to you was, as an agent, that Midwest work ethic, that, a lot of areas of the country don't have that like good integrity, ethics, and you just shoot from the hip and you shoot straight. And I loved that about you. And I thought, this is a guy, he's not going to get me sued. He's not going to lie to consumers. He's not going to be slick. And I really was drawn to that with you as a salesperson. So I'm sure that had to do with like your upbringing, parents, and things like that.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about, okay, so you come from the automotive service industry, you're in Florida, you get this push, you have a little dough saved. I mean, what was your thought process in real estate? Why real estate? Why not just get a job in that same industry here? Was it freedom, flexibility? What were you looking for?
Well, I'll be honest, I made a cursory search to stay in my industry because it was, comfort zone kind of thing.
Sure.
Problem is, in Florida, there really is no automotive industry other than dealerships.
Sure.
And maybe a parts warehouse here or there, but no. And I didn't want to do any more traveling. And the biggest reason is I wanted to work for myself.
You have your own business now.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So you know me, I'm not a micromanager. I'm not
No.
into like that kind of stuff. And I like people like yourself who are driven, self-starters.
You have to be.
You got to be, right?
Absolutely.
So you get into Trend, you start with a couple of deals, you caught a listing, a pretty nice listing pretty early. Tell me that story, because I think that was a pretty good one. You kind of just organically came across this. You were selling some furniture or something?
Yeah. My girlfriend had a recliner, and we downsized when we moved down on purpose. And she really loved this recliner, but there was no damn place for this thing to sit. It sat in my office next to my desk. There was no place to recline it without it taking over half the room.
Right.
Nobody ever sat there.
Yeah.
So she put it on the market, like
Yeah.
Facebook Market or something like that. And we got a gentleman that had come out to take a look at it. And he came in and he liked to talk. And he was talking about needed some extra furniture. He was going through a divorce and he had to sell his house. And,
There you go.
And
you went, ping.
yeah, I was just sitting in the living room reading a book or something, and my bat ears started, twitching. And, ultimately I helped him, load it into his truck and say, hey, if you're looking for someplace, eventually you're going to have to move. And I didn't look at it as a listing because he had mentioned that, he was potentially working with somebody. So I didn't want to step on anybody's toes.
Sure.
But I knew he was going to have to find a place.
Right.
So
you're thinking buy side.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the more we talked, we started talking and got a listing appointment about a month later after working him a little bit and gaining his trust. And we put on the market, and it was a fun listing.
That was a trial by fire for your first one, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was.
But it was a nice listing. Look, it was a $500,000 house, right?
Correct.
This isn't some little $100,000 deal. You jumped into this and you're doing a $500,000 deal your first deal.
Yeah.
And it's complicated because there's a divorce, right?
Yes. So not everybody saw it eye to eye. You're on the buy side. There's some stubbornness there.
Sure.
The ironic thing is we had pretty decent amount of showings once we got the price point where it needed to be, but we only had one offer. But
Wow.
that one offer was submitted 4 or 5 different times at different varying price points.
From different people.
No, one person.
One person.
One person.
Oh my God.
So a lot of back and forth. It was obvious those buyers wanted the house, but they wanted it at their price.
Sure.
And
but they just kept coming around and nobody else did.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And so I kept in contact with the buyer's agent and kept open communication. A lot of work on the backside.
And I think there was months in between the initial offer and the close, right?
Correct.
So you worked that hardcore.
And it was a short-term listing, 4 months. So I had to work hard.
Yeah, you got to get in and out.
And I believe we had it under contract maybe a full day before the listing was going to expire.
Wow.
So
I mean, you had to feel a little bit like you hit a half-court shot with that one, though, right? Like
Yes.
at the 11th hour there?
Yes.
Yep.
But, I mean, and you learn so much in that first listing.
Yes.
And, I made mistakes along the way. I mean,
Everybody does.
Yeah. So you're trying to figure out what you need to do to improve upon it or, figure out, something that is workable for both sides. And,
How do you get better at this? How do you get people from I want X to reality is Y?
Yeah.
I mean, that's in my mind, that's the game, right? Like everybody plugging a house in the MLS, not hard. Hiring a digital photographer, not hard. Hiring a videographer, not hard. None of that stuff is hard. What's hard is the psychological element of getting them from, but the neighbor sold for X, why can't I get X? And you're going, it's 600 square feet smaller and it's updated and you're coming from that third party perspective. This is like telling them their child is ugly, right? Like they hear 479, I want 529 or whatever the numbers are, right? I mean, how did you break that down with them to get them to reality?
A lot of data.
The numbers.
A lot of what ifs.
What if?
A lot of, hey, we've had a lot of showings, and I bug the crap out of any buyer's agents for feedback.
Yep.
And I give give them all the feedback.
Sure.
And say, look, we're seeing a trend here.
Yes.
No pun intended.
I love
But
it.
you start, you wear them down a little bit with, hey, this isn't me talking. This is the market talking.
Amen.
And
Buyer's agent said this. Buyers said this, right?
Yeah.
Like the kitchen's outdated. The bathroom hasn't been touched in 20, or whatever it is, right? The feedback helps you get them to reality.
it was a beautiful home.
Sure.
But it had certain things that most people didn't like.
Sure.
But you only need one buyer.
Right.
And
gotta
we
get that
found
one.
and we found that buyer.
And over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a miracle. I thought it was a dead deal when it first went down.
I remember you came to one of the meetings and you're like, man, this thing is terrible. I don't
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
I can't get him to see logic and reason, but you pulled it off though.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just sheer will. Just keep bringing him data, keep bringing him the offer. What did it? I mean, what got him over that hump? Just the reality of the situation?
Yes, because they had to sell.
Yeah.
Their divorce was at one point it was final, and the interaction between two ex-spouses that are forced to live in the same house, it's not
No
good.
fun. I've been divorced. I know how it is.
So have I.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where they have to understand that at some point you have to bite the bullet.
That's right.
It didn't sell exactly for what they wanted.
But I thought you got fair market value.
Absolutely.
Right. I
Yeah.
thought you got them a number that I was actually impressed you got.
Yeah, and I got an appraisal just to get the number. So there's a
Brilliant.
We did a pre-inspection.
Pre-inspection, brilliant.
So
you're doing all the stuff that advanced agents are doing. You're getting an appraisal. You're getting a pre-inspection. I mean, you know what you're getting into. This isn't like you're guessing.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, kill 'em with data.
Kill them with data. I love it.
Because there was a lot of emotion involved. So you try to take it, and there still was, even with the data.
Yes.
So yeah, it was. Let me put it this way: I don't necessarily chase listings. I'm not going to turn them down if there's an opportunity.
Sure.
But I have much more fun as a buyer's agent, and I spent 20 years not exactly loving my job. I like to enjoy what I'm doing.
Amen.
And I'm not going to say that I won't, chase, the listing side of the business, but you're always the hero when you're a buyer's agent.
That's right.
And you're the what?
You're the villain. Yeah. You got to tell them. You got to tell them you're the doctor with the cancer diagnosis.
Yeah.
Sorry, we ain't going to get the dream number. And nobody wants to hear that. But when you can go out and say, okay, this thing's listed at 500. We're going to offer 450. We're going to end up you look like they love you. And they're really not paying you, right? Like the listing, they're always thinking I'm paying X, and buyers are going, oh, you're my tour guide.
Absolutely.
So I agree. I like the buy side of it as well. I think it's more fun. I think it's more of a sale where you get those, the goosebumps and stuff. But to come through that was your first transaction, right? This listing was the first sale, or no, you did a couple sales in the middle of it.
Had a few, yeah.
Okay, so you had a couple buy sides in the middle of this listing.
Correct.
Okay, let's talk about buy sides real quick, okay?
Yep.
Because one of the things, so the first 2 years we did Trend, we were talking about training and trying to help new licensees get listings. And I realized that is not going to work for new licensees because it's too hard, it's too complicated, it's too difficult, and it's not as fun. So what we did about a year ago was we rolled out our leads program. And you're one of the agents I think is the strongest at these leads. You've done, a handful or a couple of handfuls of closings already with our leads, and you have a couple more pending. So you understand that process. Tell me about leads and how you look at it in your perspective, because I could go on and on about it, but I want to hear from you, a new licensee who's done closing after closing after closing with these leads. Tell me about the leads process.
The one thing that stuck with me that you had said is the speed to lead.
Yes.
And when you get a new lead, you got to call them right away.
That's right.
And you feel lucky when you get a hold of them because sometimes they just won't answer the phone.
That's right.
A lot of folks don't answer the phone.
Yep.
You call, you text. Some way, shape, or form you want to get a hold of them.
That's right.
Once you get a hold of them, you just talk to them.
That's right.
You don't have to have a script.
Thank you.
You don't have to have
be a human.
You don't have to have a shtick.
Yeah.
And one thing about my old career, a good portion of my career, I traveled all over the country. I had all the small parts warehouses for General Motors for a fleet contract. And I was they were supplying all the parts for the entire country, so they're strategically located. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's calling from out of state, chances are they're somewhere close to where I did business.
Yeah, there you go.
And you name drop a restaurant you went to over there, or you name drop some place you went to, or just the town.
Yes.
And you automatically get some kind of affinity with them.
The commonality.
Yeah, and they'll be a little bit more apt to work with you because you have some level of connection.
Any level of connection, right?
Sports, whatever.
Yes.
And it's not like you're looking for something just to get an in, but it is sort of that way because you don't really sell houses. You're selling relationships.
Amen.
So
that's it.
Because the houses sell themselves.
That's right.
I could show 10 houses.
Yes.
And that 10th house you go into, that prospective buyer is going to walk in and say, "This is my house."
Yeah.
I don't have to show them anything.
That's right.
Of course, my job is I call it the warts and the beauty marks agent.
There you go.
You got to point out the stuff that's a red flag or something because they're going to find it with an inspection. They're going to find it some other way.
So you're really coming from like the place of integrity. Like, look, here's the drawback here. You're just disclosing, rip the Band-Aid off, and go for it.
You might as well get it out up front.
That's right.
And if they still want the house, then your best majority of the battle is you already passed that. Mm-hmm. It comes down to more the stuff you can't see.
That's right.
With inspection, because we're not inspectors. We're agents. We're going in there to market the home. All that comes after.
That's right.
But if there's stuff that's obvious, especially first-time home buyers, I love dealing with the first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they don't know.
That's right. So
it's my job to point stuff out that's obvious.
Yes.
I had one of the deals that we closed when I first started showing them. They were dealing with multiple agents. So I wanted to at least put my best foot forward, and if they still wanted to deal with whoever they were dealing with, that's fine. But whoever they dealt with in the leads program, they were working, not leads program, but Realtor.com. Whoever for multiple properties, they would see a house with somebody else like an hour after I showed it to them,
So they're
And-
shopping not only homes, they're shopping agents.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I brought my screwdriver with me
Nice.
because I suspected the house had old wiring.
Yep.
I took the cover off the panel, and I say, look, this has aluminum wire. There's no reason to
Can't get insurance.
Yeah, I said there's no reason for us to stay here.
That's beautiful.
And we looked at a couple more, and then she called me back and she said, look, we have like half a dozen houses we'd like to look at. We want to work with you.
I love that.
And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
And ended up finding them a house, and we closed on it a couple weeks ago. So
And this was the young couple.
yes.
Awesome. I saw the pictures on Facebook. It was awesome. Great
Yep.
story.
Good
I mean,
kids.
Good kids, right?
They remind me of my oldest daughter and her husband.
Nice.
I mean, almost like identical.
Carbon
in terms
copies,
of, terms
right?
of personality.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. So you take first-time home buyers out. You just do a little bit more due diligence than everybody else is doing. You're looking at the electrical box. You're thinking, is this thing insurable? What can I do to make sure that they're safe in the home? They love that, and they pick you.
Yeah.
Great story, right?
Yeah.
So I think that conscientiousness you bring to the table and your background in sales, your background working with people all over the country, I think that's what makes you different as an agent. And just also the fact that like you just kind of get people, right? Like you understand like the people who are being difficult for the sake of being difficult. And you also understand the people who are maybe in that spot where they're a little bit scared because this process, look, I mean, we don't really buy anything more expensive or spend more money than on anything than our homes, right? So it's this nerve-wracking thing. And you must, how was your experience buying a home down here? You must understand the affinity that goes into this, that you can say, okay, look, this is a nerve-wracking process. How do I stay calm? Because I see a stoic guy, a calm guy, a guy who brings people through, emotionally erratic things. And you always have that like poker face, which I like in the dealings.
Yeah. I try not to get worked up over anything. Sometimes to a fault. I don't get upset very often when I probably should get upset. But it's not going to do you any good to lose your cool. You have to be the calmest person in the room.
I like that.
I mean, going back to that listing.
Yes.
We went to the 11th hour having to split $100 repair on a pool pump.
I remember that.
Between me and the and the buyer's agent. And at the time, she was getting a little bit heated because she saw the finish line and we're just not quite there. And I took her out to the lanai. I say, look, it's $100. Let's just split it and call it a day.
Yep.
There's no reason for us to have this conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
Went in there, finished the deal, and we closed. So you have to understand where they're coming from and understand they're going to have some level of emotion. And there's nothing wrong with that. When they calm down, you have to be able to explain to them as pragmatically as possible with empathy. And it's not always easy to do.
No, it's not, right?
And sometimes folks just don't get it, and they're just not ready.
That's right.
Either they're not ready because they're not ready to make the commitment, or it may be something more financial. They're a year or so away. And my thing is, I don't ask those kind of pre-qualifying questions on the first showing because I want to go meet them face to face.
I love that. Press the flesh, right?
Yeah, you got to build you only have so much time to build rapport.
Yep.
And it's not like I'm doing an audition. I'm just being myself.
That's right.
So sometimes personalities don't mesh. You may not hear from them again. They may, for whatever reason.
Sure.
I may remind them of somebody they don't like. They don't like people named Bob. I mean, who knows?
Right.
So
they don't like red shirts, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, and that's okay.
Yep.
Because not every.
But it's a numbers game. If you meet X amount of people, you're going to get Y amount of sales, and that's why I love that about you, because a lot of companies are like, no, get a pre-qualification letter. Don't meet them until you have it. And I'm like, you're turning consumers off with that. I like this approach where get with them belly to belly and chew the fat a little bit, figure out what you can do together, help them, because if they're not a buyer, maybe they'll refer you out, right?
Yep. And let's face it, I'm still new. I'm still building a business.
That's right.
So I'm not getting inundated with referrals yet. It's coming.
But you're building.
I see where it's headed.
That's right.
And you have to. And I think one thing about the whole statistic about the first 2 years, most people drop out.
Yes.
They have an unrealistic expectation of what they're getting into.
Thank you.
You have to understand that it's not easy. You have to work. You have to be self-motivated. You have to go chase it.
Yep.
The most difficult thing about what I do is work-life balance.
Yes.
And I'm bringing this up because I know my girlfriend's going to be watching this.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of struggle between her and I, because the business is there. You have to chase it.
That's right.
And right now the market's very hot, especially on the you're having to be very competitive
Yes.
with offers. You have to
Yes.
be on your game. You have to be
You're
able to
going out
negotiate.
looking at houses, and people are writing offers in a day or two on the market.
And you have to have that mindset with folks and say. And I try to tell them, I'm not a high pressure salesperson.
Yes.
That's not my way I do business. But I'm going to tell you, this house is a very nice house.
It's going to be gone in a day.
It's priced fairly.
Yeah.
There's probably offers being written on this house right now.
Yes.
If you really like it, we should put an offer. If not, that's great. We'll keep looking.
Yes.
But if you like it, don't sleep on it, because the way our contracts are written, there's always a way of getting out of it if, for whatever reason,
you find a better house, or the inspection comes back dirty, or whatever.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
brilliant move.
Don't be afraid of writing up a contract. You're not signing your life away.
You can get a 10 to 15 day period where you have a due diligence where, okay, if you say the carpet's too short, you can get out of the contract, right? I mean, that inspection period will allow for a lot of sins to be forgiven. You can make some decisions. I have an agent right now. She's got one buyer writing multiple offers for that purpose. I think that's the way to do it. Get out there, get people on contract with things that they like, and give yourself 10, 15 days to make sure you love it, right? Because we're having houses come, especially under $300,000 in this area in Sarasota. Mm-hmm. You're under $300,000 and it's priced right and it's in good condition, it's gone in days, right? The stuff that's overpriced, stuff that's $500,000, okay, you have a little more time there. But this hot market right now with 2.8% interest rates, 2.9% interest rates, whatever it is, this stuff is flying off the shelves. You're seeing this, right?
Yes.
So are consumers feeling that? Are they resonating with it? Or are you really having to explain that and show them the data?
If they're just starting out, you gotta educate them.
Yeah.
And I've sent some NAR type articles. Just to say, it's just not me saying this, and this isn't just a Florida thing. This is all over the country.
Yes.
Those that have been have used a baseball and analogy,
yeah.
Swing and miss 2 or 3 times.
Then
they understand it.
That's right.
And now I see.
That's right.
Because the house, I say it's listed at 250, and I said, well, let's go in at 220, and I run the comps, and it's like, look, they're right in fair market value. 220, you may not even get a response on this.
Yep.
If you like it, go for it. I mean, if you like it, you can maybe not put your best foot forward, but if you love it, swing for the fences.
There you go.
And sometimes they agree with that, and sometimes they don't. And at some point in time, I mean,
you got to bring them through the process.
Yes.
Yeah. You got to maybe lose a couple times, strike out a couple times, right?
And you got to have patience.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
you have to have patience in this business.
I love your approach, this patient approach and this stoic attitude, because I see that you are building a business within Trend. I mean, that Trend, there's laws, but there's no rules. There's no stupid rules. We do stuff all the time. Hey, man, I got to do this. Can I kick this in or do this or change this or what? Yes. I'm let's get you paid. Let's get you making money. Mm-hmm. I like that approach to this. And I think it's really important as you go forward, as you build this business, to do some of the things you're doing. You told me the other day, hey, I've put I've taken our leads, I've put them into a database, and I'm dripping them every month with something or whatever you're doing. And I'm like, yes, right? You got to stay in from. You don't want to spam them to death, because you start sending them the pumpkin pie, recipe in October, and then the turkey thing, and then it's too much, right? But if you get them some decent content, or you get just in front of them, right? Touch them consistently. That's how they get to know you, like you, trust you. And if they don't know you, like you, trust you, they're not going to work with you. So did that come from your background in sales? How did you just know to do that?
The best way I can answer is, number one, I've never really been in sales, and I don't really consider this a sales job.
You're thinking more service angle.
It's more service.
There you go. I like that.
And it bothers me if I've reached out to somebody and I haven't been able to make contact. So I want to at least keep trying for those that are probably, for lack of a better term, on life support.
Sure.
Either they found somebody else, which is fine, or they're not serious, or for whatever reason they just you need to chip away at them a little bit.
That's right.
And you don't know who those people are until you're able to have them make contact with you.
That's right.
And once they make contact with you, you have an opportunity that you don't want to squander.
Yes.
So yeah, and I should be doing it more, I'll be honest. But
I think you're doing a great job.
But when you have warmer leads, you're gonna focus on the warmer leads, because they're looking right now.
That's right. You have to do that. You got to grab the stuff at the bottom of the funnel that you can close, and then retouch the stuff that's further away.
Yeah.
As strategically as you can do it.
But what you don't want to do is ignore those people at the top of your funnel.
Right.
And just have laser energy on those that are either close, and you need to carve out time, and that's what I'm getting at. Where I need to get better is carving out a little bit more time on the top end of that funnel.
Yep.
Because you don't want those dead spots.
Yep.
And I experienced that dead spot in late winter, early spring, and I was a little bit in panic mode.
Sure. Yeah.
But when I got re-engaged, some of it was the COVID, and
of course.
I mean, there was a lot of factors involved.
I mean, what a first year to be in this.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
yes. I mean, I started just before.
Holy cow!
Well, I started just before the holiday season.
So it's slow.
It slows down anyway.
Right, and then you get a couple of months, and then it's COVID.
Yes.
So the fact that you made it that first year at all is shocking, right?
Yeah, and I've got 10 deals so far, and I think 3 or 4, maybe 5 by the end of the year.
Nice.
So I think for that being my first year in this type of environment, I think it is
incredible.
It's good. It's a good learning experience.
We've had people come in, they're experienced, and they go from X amount of deals a year to almost nothing and quit the business. So I've had new licensees like yourself really hit the ground running and do a great job. I've had other people hit and miss, up and down. There's all sorts, but I think your approach to the business as I'm building my own business is the approach, right? You're building a network of people down here that know you, like you, trust you. And years from now, the sale you made last week is going to, call Bob. He's a great guy. He's a straight shooter. He took apart that electrical box. That stuff, it stays with people, that little bit of extra stuff. So I think you've done a phenomenal job. Is there anything that you'd recommend? I'm going to ask you 2 things. One, what would you tell the consumer in this market right now? And then I'll ask you, what would you tell a new licensee? So let's start with the consumer. What would be your advice to a consumer, buyer or seller, you can pick, in this market right now here in Sarasota?
I'll probably just repeat what I've already said. If you like a house, be competitive. If you love a house, you gotta be strong and be prepared.
Swing for the fence.
Swing for the fence and do what you got to do on the front end. Get pre-qualified. That's imperative.
Yes. Be ready with the loan.
If you're a cash buyer, have your proof of funds letter ready because they're going to want that.
Yeah.
And educate yourself. There's certain things I can tell you, but you shouldn't be spoon-fed. Be a smart consumer.
Yeah.
And I always tell folks, do not be afraid to ask me any question because there might be one little thing that I may not notice on a listing that could be a huge deal breaker for you.
Yeah.
And it may not be something that I consider to be that big of a deal, but it could be a huge deal for them.
Pet size.
Correct.
Anything.
That's a good example.
Right?
Very relevant example right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the big things for a consumer.
Yes. Okay.
And what was the second thing?
A licensee. What are you going to tell a new licensee? So you have a great year. You've done more than a transaction a month here. You're working leads. You're working your organic stuff. You're growing a business. What would you tell a new licensee? Hey, why did you pick Trend? What has worked for you this first year? Give me an example of if you were starting over right now, what would you tell yourself?
What I would tell myself if I was starting, first of all, I'd say you made the right choice because this is a great brokerage to work for.
Love that. Thank you, by the way.
And not just because I'm talking to you. It's a new licensee should, if they're part of the leads program, don't, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but don't half-ass the leads program.
Thank you.
If you get a lead, regardless if it's a small land parcel or $1 million house on the key,
yep.
Treat them both the same way.
Yep.
Somebody who's reaching out, they have enough interest to fill out an online form versus just click and move on.
Yep.
So there's some level of interest.
Yes.
It's your job to figure out what that level of interest is and figure out how you can help them.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get a hold of them, continue to get a hold of them. You have to, especially if you don't have a huge sphere of influence.
Yep. This is how you build one.
And that's the only way you're going to build it.
Yep.
And especially now with COVID where you can't just sit at the bar
right.
and chat somebody up who's on vacation. You can't do that right now.
Yep.
So you have some handcuffs. You got folks that are not going to necessarily come down from New York or Illinois or Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get good at shooting video.
Yes, you've been doing that.
I do that a lot, and I've gotten deals under contract based on the strength of a video.
That's amazing.
And I'm not.
You're no tech savant, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, me either.
I don't have a studio like we're sitting in.
Yeah, right.
It's an iPhone. You're walking around. You're giving them, your feedback, and you're zooming in, and you're showing them the neighborhood.
Yep.
So they get an idea who their neighbors are. I mean, you have to. You're not going to see that on a 3D on a listing.
Right.
That's a marketing video.
That's a marketing gimmick.
This is here's the house warts and all.
Yep.
Here's the crack in the wall.
Yes.
Here's the gorgeous tile floor, but here's the gaping hole in the second bedroom. You got to
Yes.
show all that stuff.
That's right.
Because they're going to see it if they walk in. So you have to pretend they're with you.
That's right.
So you have to do what it takes
Yep.
to take care of your customer.
Yep.
You're not going to do their laundry for them, obviously, but you're going to do certain things.
But you're going to do your duty.
You're going to go to the county and get permits.
I love that.
You're gonna throw some batteries into a smoke detector. You're gonna do certain things.
Yep. You're going above and beyond.
Yes.
Yep.
And there are limits, obviously.
Of course.
But if
You're only one guy. There's only so much you can do. There's
Yeah.
only, but you're going to that level where you're building fans. Like these people are going to be repeat offenders, buying and selling with you over and over and over again because you understand service.
Yeah, it's more of a relationship business, not a real estate business. And
I agree.
think, and then that's probably to boil it down. That is what I would tell a new agent. You have to build
Love that.
relationships. You're not selling houses. You're selling yourself.
I love that.
So
Amazing. Any final thoughts here as we wrap up? I mean, we've hit on your career, service-based. You've been all over the country. You're well-traveled guy, well-seasoned in customer service, consumer-based sales. You've got an affinity towards the buy side. You love finding a deal for people. You're conscious of what they need to do on the front end. You're conscious of what needs to happen through the process. Any parting thoughts here and you're telling new licensees, take it serious with the leads, build that relationship. Any final thoughts here as we wrap up?
we could cover just about everything. I guess one final thought would be to utilize your resources.
Tell me about that.
If you're a new agent,
Yeah.
you're not going to know everything. I think experienced agents aren't going to know everything.
Correct.
You have a Facebook group that's great.
Yep.
You throw out something, whether it's a recommendation for a type of contractor or a certain type of contractual issue,
Yes.
or whatever. Use the folks that have been there, done that,
Yeah.
and get a different perspective.
Yes.
Don't feel like you have to work it alone. Just because this is a boutique brokerage doesn't mean that there's not resources.
That's right. You're always on the Facebook page. Hey, what do you think about this inspection, this loan, whatever the issue you're going through? And I see you generating and driving a lot of content and discussion. I think that's great.
Yep.
And you're able to get you had somebody this last weekend. You couldn't cover a certain area because you were double booked. You had that taken care of, or maybe it's this weekend coming up.
It was last weekend, yeah.
That resourcefulness, I think that's the thing I think of when I think of you is Bob is resourceful. Like we don't have all the resources in the world, but you're a resourceful guy. You kind of just find a way, and I love that about you.
Well, on the flip side of that, you have to have other people that are willing to help.
Yep.
Because I've helped others.
Yes,
where they've needed
many
help.
times. Yeah.
And it's been reciprocated.
Yes.
So that's huge.
Yeah.
So anybody that's watching this is considering a brokerage. This is a good choice just because of that. You don't have competitiveness
Internally. Yeah.
It's more collaboration and colleagueship.
I wanted a place where it was like a team, like we've called you and you've shot to Clearwater and done all this stuff for us. And I'm like, this dude is in it to win it. So that's why I'm always like, what can I do? How can I help? Because you sense from these agents who the team players are and the people who are, it's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about me.
And they won't last long.
No, they don't. We don't keep them. We don't keep them around. We like the guys like yourself, ground and pound guys, fundamentally sound, high integrity, and really high potency too. I mean, you're a new agent during COVID, making sales left and right, couple a month, every month. I mean, I'm impressed, man. There's not a lot of people that impressed me, and you definitely did.
Yep, thanks.
Congrats to a great first year. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yep.
Guys, if you need anything, Bob is the man. He does a great job. I'm starting to give more and more of my stuff to Bob, more leads, more time spent with him, more tasks, and he's knocking it out of the park. I think if you bump into Bob out there as a consumer or another agent, you're going to be working with a good counterpart here. Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it.
All right, take care.